we will call the Interior Minister. He is first in line. And of course, the Minister for Defense. But most importantly, Evans, I would want to establish from the government what happened to the report of the fact-finding committee, which was set up by the Minister for the Interior sometime in January, when the conflict erupted once again, to unravel the remote causes that resulted in the conflict and to find a lasting solution to the problem. My understanding is that the committee has since presented its report to government, but since then it appears government has been tight-lipped in respect of the report and what the recommendations were. And so as we speak now, we are unable to tell whether the government is in the position to implement the recommendations of the committee or not. So one other important issue we would want to take up with the Minister for the Interior is the committee's report. This is not the first time the conflict has erupted. It's something that is has been occurring from time to time. It's seasonal in nature, and so
far the combined team of police and military who are on the ground around the Chereponi area have been able to arrest a total of 8 persons in connection with the violence that is currently ongoing. They've been able to retrieve 6 single-barrel guns plus 1 locally manufactured weapon. This morning, we have not heard of any violence around the area. We have been able to send more men to increase patrols and also get to the interior and ensure that they respond more to distress calls that is received by the security. It is our expectation that we'll be able to bring the situation under control very, very soon. As of now, the tactics that we've employed have worked and the situation has calmed down considerably. It's only intermittent disturbances that we record, and we are going to work more to ensure we relieve most of the people who are under distress and also escort a lot of the people who have their homes destroyed and internally displaced. We escort them to safety so that they can also have some respite.
You need very good vehicles, strong vehicles to be able to access those areas. So those are some impediments, but that notwithstanding, we've been able to bring the situation under some control. But we are sure with the men that we have had, we'll be able to get it to firmer control.
Right. So you heard James Agalga, who is former Deputy Minister of the Interior and the ranking member on the minority side, and you heard Yusuf Tanko, who is the Public Relations Director of the police in Tamale. Now, this now comes under, Chereponi now comes under the northeast region of that region. So, very, very disturbing once again. Almost 2,000 people have been displaced as a result of the renewed clashes between the Konkombas and the Chikosis. And we are told of many, many, many communities having been set alight, having burnt. As you watch during Tanko speaking, 16 communities have been burnt, according to reports. Now, Kuku, the question many continue to ask is, what exactly is the situation? What is the issue? If you did a Google search and you just typed in Chereponi, you'd see how often you read about this recurrent situation. So is it that we can't figure out how to end this?
Well, I will not pretend to be an authority on this matter. Let me be honest with you, except, of course, to say that it's recurrent, as you said, and not peculiar to just that particular displaced.
Right.
But this, as you indicated, is within the new region, isn't it?
Right.
Northeast.
Yes.
Yeah, we are creating new regions because we anticipate it could create the time and space for development. And if you're going to have these things recurring consistently, I mean, then maybe the vision of development could be challenged seriously. But see, because it keeps happening, you are talking of 2,000 displaced. I remember the Kokomba, Nanumba clashes, the Third Republic as well as the Fourth Republic. Tens of thousands of people were killed, properties destroyed left, right, center. I'm beginning, and because I'm not an authority, not an expert on this, I'm going to be very cautious. See, our intelligence gathering capability, I think we should take another look at it and look for ways and means of enhancing it. Because you see, some of these problems, it will take a while. They are deep-rooted. In spite of developments here and there, some of them are very deep-rooted, ethnocentric elements, land disputes, chieftaincy disputes. So they are going to be with us for a while. I wish we could kill them by the next day, but it's not possible. I'm being realistic. So then, the intelligence gathering capability of our districts and regional security councils. We have a security architecture, an intelligence architecture.
The police commander admits that they are overwhelmed by the security situation there.
In terms of the enormous personnel, equipment, all that, true. But sometimes intelligence gathering capability is not dependent on just your numbers. Okay? So some preventive intelligence is important. I mean, action is there. We really have to look at that aspect, so that we can pick up early warning signals that possibly this could be happening. Then, of course, where we locate our police stations as well as military units, bases, is also important. Because if we make an assessment that these areas are potentially volatile and could explode because of one or two undercurrents that have been there, then you decide how to locate or relocate your police and military deployment, in terms of deployment, so that quick, sometimes when the incident happens, the kind of intervention, how quickly you are able to intervene could also help. And that's why the locations and relocations of our police and security units are important. Well, this might be considered as a joke. Perhaps instead of locating some of them at the National Security Council Secretariat, we can locate them appropriately where they can manage the situation. You get my point?
Right.
I haven't invited Mr. Buti to make any comment. So to be honest with you, that's the way I see it. Because it's going to take us a while to deal with this, let's take a look at the intelligence gathering capability. And then the second phase is the deployment of military and police units. Some barracks, even sometimes permanent locations.
Okay.
We know what the situation up there is.
Right.
I'm not talking of only these problems being only peculiar to the north, but they occur quite often there. We should be very honest with ourselves and build the capability to confront this challenge.
Right.
I'm a non-expert, and that's all I think.
Kweku seems to provide the ingredients in the statements and commentary that the analysts have been making.
Final one.
The analysts have been making. They say that government needs to take firm action.
Yes, beyond this policing, intelligence, preventive things, also reconciliatory processes, peace building, peacemaking. All these areas, I'm not an expert, but I think we have people who have the expertise in this country.
So that we are not misunderstood, there was the Konkombas, the disturbances, which was reported to be because of some, is it guinea fowl or something?
That was just the surface.
Yes. But in this particular situation, we are told that it is about a dispute over a small parcel of land.
2 acres.
2 acres in that poverty-stricken 8 plots in that poverty-stricken area of the country, between the Konkombas and the Chokosis, is it? Unfortunately, What triggered this latest development? We don't know. Randy?
You know, I think Kweku made a critical point about intelligence gathering or intelligence failure, whichever way you want to look at it. Because you see, when you have flashpoints, it's like half your work done. You know, so you're able to identify that these are flashpoints. And this area is part of the about 500 or so that has been, you know, marked out as a flashpoint. And if you follow the work of those in the small arms issues and all that, you would find this coming up. And
that's right.
When we were watching James Agaga, I realized that he mentioned a fact-finding mission in January and a report having been presented, which means that we've even had something not too old. So how come, because if you follow the police reports or statements in the aftermath of what has happened, you find a lot of intelligence in the stuff that they are giving us. Like, oh, the people plan at night, they do these things at night. That's a product of intelligence gathering. So where was all this, you know, prior to the issues escalating? You know, because if we have flashpoints and they've been identified, it's supposed to make the work of the intelligence or security agencies easier. You know, it's not like something that is taking everybody by surprise. But this is a clear and present danger. Everybody knows about it, you know, and we need to do something about it. And sometimes to, you know, we are happy with having the data, but we do little about it. Because like I keep saying, the 500 and something that we are talking about, if we were to ask the practical steps that we've taken in trying to resolve these issues, you would be surprised that beyond us identifying them and putting together the data and everything, we've virtually gone to sleep, hoping that people will not do what is wrong. But this is where we are. Now, look at the videos. You can tell the level of poverty in the area. Now, for an area that is so poor or impoverished, as we speak, schools have been closed down. Health facilities have been closed down. I am sure that perhaps a lot of the teachers and the health professionals are not people who come from the area. They are people who have been posted. You know, how are you going to, I mean, sort things out and try and get them back? I mean, to post and all that. I mean, look at the level of poverty we see. Yet these people are able to acquire ammunition to do what they're doing unto themselves. You know, because it looks like, from what I was reading, the literature suggests that there are two fights. The one with the Chokosis, which is about 8 plots of land, and another one with another group, which is about fishing rights in a river. You know, and because of this, for years, you want to further impoverish your situation. I mean, who does that? We really need to up our game.
Some people make money too out of the small.
Yeah, there is. Because otherwise, we go saying off air that if you look at some of the buildings there, it appears that the ammunition that they're using are more expensive than the buildings that they live in.
Yeah, I agree.
So it is some different industry. The kind of ammunition that they're using to cause mayhem there appear to be more expensive than the buildings that they live in.
Obviously.
Who does that?
Interesting. Yes, Kofi.
So I made some notes, and I think a number of things have been said around the same thing. I said that in my notes, I figure out in my mind, and I'm saying so because I'm not an expert, I think the first and most critical national security problem we have in this country is vigilante militias. That's number one in my mind. Number two is civil and tribal unrest, most of which is found around the northern region. Now, why I do this is that in processing this, therefore, I ask myself, we have a national security system. We were discussing it the last time. They have thousands of operatives and a huge budget. And I ask myself, if we have these two as the critical security problems that can compromise our country, okay, what are they doing about it? Kweku hinted to that. Randy hinted to that. My question is, if we are not going to fight Russia, we don't maintain a foreign intelligence system because there's no need for it. why can't we have enough intelligence people embedded in these simple places? Because Kweku alluded to the preemptive activity of security. You can pick up this. Sometimes people travel from there. Some of the teachers and doctors, they leave before the fight.
Yeah.
They leave before the fight because they
Right.
can see it coming.
Yeah.
And I ask myself, if a teacher can tell that there's a fight coming, where is our national security? Because you know what,
The
some of
district
us,
security council,
district security council, regional security council. So they are, in this country, I think when we have a failure, we must track who is responsible and ask, what have you been doing? Why it's important? Look, you can have only Chereponi, people fighting in Chereponi, and there may not even be any deaths or casualties, but it will make world news.
Yeah.
And when you travel, people ask as if your whole country is fighting, simply because there's a fight in Kokomba and Nanumba. And you have to explain it. Apart from that, there's real problems like Randy is saying. Look, when you lose, the doctors don't want to go, the teachers don't want to go, other people don't want to go there. And then when you do this, then you
Even
lose
in
them.
the absence of war.
war.
Yes.
Okay, and then they leave and come. How do you, get them back? So my issue is that we should task our national security system and tell them that nothing is more important than this. And ask the National Security Secretariat, the National Security heads, not to be too focused on political parties, and those are the vigilante things they should deal with, but they should be able to give us early warning on these things, because ordinary people can see them. And let's deploy state security forces. My last point, I do believe that if this is a major national security issue, and you just said the police are saying they don't have the necessary men and equipment. This is what the Ghana Army is there for. We are not going to fight Togo or Cote d'Ivoire. When we had a real dispute with Cote d'Ivoire, we went to court and we settled it.
But sometimes the military is also deployed alongside them.
So that's why I'm saying that the police should never say we don't have the men, because there is a clear pipe where if you find that you lack men or whatever it is, and especially in cases like those where it is national security, you bring the army in. I think you said it, that we should consider putting more barracks or whatever it is. I think this should be the first and most important issue for the Ghana Army, to contain these things. If we have the early warning and the police quickly get them involved, we should be able to contain a lot of these things, because like you're saying, they are not necessarily trained warriors.
So maybe relocate
so
the
Mr. Abuchi, it does look like having the military there.
You don't need a mask. They should go and do it without a mask.
It does look like having the military there will be useful. Someone tells me, and listening as we speak, and is worried that the police PR seems to say they are in control and things are under wraps. He's suggesting that otherwise. He says his village shares shares border with Chereponi. It was burnt down by rifle-wielding fighters from Chereponi. Yet these people are saying this is going on. He's saying that his cousin was killed, yet the police and soldiers seem never to arrest any of the Chokosis who are seen wielding weapons. It suggests to me that there is a certain, prejudice. That's what he's suggesting.
Prejudice against them?
That one particular group may be the ones that are being targeted as those who are fomenting the trouble.
Or backed by police.
And are being supported.
Given the national audience we have, I would not want to make a statement we have no evidence of.
Right.
I think it's a bit risky and it can be inflammatory. I think it's important, however, that the police and the security agencies deal with the optics, because a lot of these things are inspired by what people perceive, which may actually be untrue and unreal. And so when people think of things, however counterfactual they are, however erroneous they are, the security agencies must appear to be bipartisan. And so I am worried if there are perceptions like this already. So I can't second guess and assume.
Always there.
I can't assume that this is true. But let me just also say and add to the fact that I agree with the sentiments on intelligence. Embedded intelligence is vital. And for this place, it's not, they're not so huge, I think. I think it should be easy for our national security agencies and police and others to have proactive intelligence. And therefore, they get embedded in the community for some period, for there to be an understanding of what's coming. But beyond that, I'm going to quickly move on to the question of leadership responsibility. I'm going to make a statement, and hopefully it doesn't get me in trouble, and that's it. This is it. The fact that chiefs in Ghana do not have immunity. There is no criminal immunity for chiefs. Therefore, the fact that when some of these things happen, often the first line of call is to see if we can negotiate with the chiefs, if we can get the chiefs talking, if we can literally propitiate them and get them to calm things. Nobody ever asked that question, and that's one thing I've noticed. Nobody ever asked what the question of responsibility of chiefs are, because ultimately these things don't often happen without the ultimate traditional leader sanctioning them. I know that there may be some vigilante in the groups, in the community, who may want to go whether or not the chief says no, but invariably, more often than not, you have leadership responsibility at that level. And we don't speak about this. Now, for often things like this that get repeated, if you do not combine the carrot and stick, if you don't do the deterrence aspect, there's always an incentive. There's an incentive that, look, we know the North Korean scenario, the North Korean model. If you want to be heard about, do something. Once you do something, there's attention on you. And sometimes I get the sense that some of these things may be inspired by the desire for attention. Let's do it so that we can have the whole country focusing on us, so that our demands and our long-standing historical complaints or grievances can be dealt with. I think government may just want to consider for the 8 plots, it can become maybe the most famous 8 plots in Ghana. I think so. The most famous 1 acre, 2 acres in Ghana. Government may consider compulsory acquisition. Acquire it. That's all. So that both sides have lost it, period. And then we can decide on what to do with that forever.
Eminent domain. A police station.
Right. Eminent domain. But I think that fundamentally speaking, we should consider the question of leadership responsibility. As we are talking to them, and I understand that you don't solve it by simply arresting people. No, it's a sociological issue. It's a long-standing historical thing. You don't just solve it by plucking people out. But we must also demonstrate a resolve as a state that if you are leaders and you are not going to be constructive, but you're actually going to be the ones inspiring some of this chaos in the background, when all is calm and quiet, there may be a question of reckoning and responsibility. And I think it is not just for Chereponi, but it's across the country, where sometimes we have chiefs leading these things, and invariably nobody asks questions about your criminal responsibility. Because no chief in Ghana has criminal immunity. There's only one person in Ghana, only one in Ghana, and I mean one, and he's the president. He's the only one who enjoys criminal and civil responsibility while in office. Everybody else, from the vice president, all
immunity whilst in office.
While in office, yes. Okay. He's the only one who enjoys that immunity while in office. And when he leaves office, I don't understand why.
2 years later.
I don't understand why why the framers of the Constitution did that. But when he leaves office, you have 3 years within which to bring any charges against him. After 3 years, he's free. I don't understand that.
Why?
It doesn't make sense if you ask me.
He deserves the peace of mind.
You mean while in office,
pay attention and focus.
While in office, it's okay.
Oh, you mean when he leaves?
Yes. Okay. But even while in office, from a constitutional standpoint, me, I have criticized that. I think that we moved from chieftaincy, and we never went beyond chieftaincy. So what we did was to create a big chief in the presidency.
But the president will be inundated with
presidents
will not be able to focus to do the job.
While they are in office.
The president,
yes, impeachment.
I don't want to turn this into my constitutional law.
It's good.
But the president will not be inundated with suits. The president has a public life, and that public life is defended by the Attorney General.
Okay.
The president can have a private life. What the president can be saved from is personal attendance to court. Remember, President Bush was summoned for jury service. When he was busy hosting somebody, he was notified of the fact that he's been summoned for jury service. He wrote to the court, begging of the court to excuse him from the jury service on grounds of the overarching national responsibilities he has, which he can't. Now, let's face it, the court could have declined that. But out of protocol and courtesy, 90% of the time, if the president requests of such an excuse, 90% of the time it will be granted. The point I'm making is, in reality, we just created the sense of a president who should not be inundated, etc., etc. But when you come down, the vice president is the same. They're members of parliament. Remember, they can't be arrested from parliament, on their way to parliament, and from parliament. In fact, if you arrest any MP, he will tell you he's either on his way from parliament or even in the bathroom. But the point is this. Everybody in the country is doing something important and not to be saved from the inundation of suits. So I don't want to go into the theory, but the point I'm making is for chiefs in particular. No chief in Ghana has immunity.
Okay.
And from that standpoint, I said, when they do some of these things, we must ultimately also ask the question of responsibility.
And so the example you give about the America and jury service extended to the president may have informed our law, excluding people like the president, members of parliament, and so on, from jury service.
Do we have a similar situation with the election petition?
Okay.
Where the president was not in court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the courts normally not compare them, out of respect.
In fact, there are some judges who insist that, who say that the law rightly interpreted is that once you have a lawyer attending to your matter in court and you don't require the client to come and give testimony or anything, they are not needed in court. But there are some judges who punish for that because you didn't come to court. But some judges still have a different view. Okay.
Because the question is, if the president is in office, and the president and I, or somebody, are in a commercial transaction, let's say it was on before he became president and he continued, and the president is defaulting on that, by the law, I am supposed to hold on until he leaves office. If he has just won elections and he has potentially 8 years, it means I have to wait for, there are some difficulties.
And then if Degree of Johnson is listening, Edu is listening, Ms. Abochi is enlightening you on your desire to have presidents prosecuted, particularly for corruption. Now, Professor Kukwasari says that we cannot get anywhere when there is indiscipline everywhere. Okay, so that's all you want to say? He always sends rather tall, messages. It's just one. Okay, we cannot get anywhere where we have indiscipline everywhere. And then Kofi says that there has been a research on the dual carriage stretch of the Accra-Kumasi Highway, for instance, to ascertain the spate of accidents compared to the single lane stretch. Oh, it's a question. Has there been any research in that regard? Driving on this highway for 4 years now, most of the crashes I see are on the single lanes. Okay, dualizing our highways will help. So that's also another
at least the dangerous
solution. Right. So let's get to
just a last point. How has disaster relief management gone in this place?
At Chereponi?
Yeah. Because I had some,
but do we need disaster relief in that context?
There's been displacement.
Displaced people.
You're talking about close to 2,000 people who have been displaced.
So one day we will discuss that. There is a district system. There's a local authority.
Students who are in school have all had to flee.
No, I hear you, but I'm saying when people talk about disaster relief, they talk about Danmo. Talk about the national level.
That's the mechanism we have.
They have a district office.
But I'm making a point that, you see, we should let our managers manage and hold our leaders responsible. There's a district system. So if that thing happens and it is containable, it's a size that the district must able to handle.
Have they been effective?
So then that's the question.
I'm not sure
and then there's a regional system. Okay, so we should not go to NADMO for every reason.
I hear you.
Those questions we must ask because we need to build our local government systems.
Sure.
And we should talk about even the district security.
Okay, so I need to take a break right now, and then we'll return to deal with political party financing, whether or not that will help us solve the problem, or as it were, help in the problem of corruption. We'll be right back.